What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Miss Easy coming at you again, once more, as usual, right? In this great day here that our Creator done made and left us in it. eh? So, yeah, I do have a couple slides here, as usual, right? Or as per the program, that I want to share with you. So, uh, fair use disclaimer, right? For the materials gonna be shared here, right? Copywritten or otherwise, for education, criticism, and so on and so forth. So, let's dive into it. So, this happened. I'm not gonna talk about the whole thing. Right? There are people who have, right, word by word, and I don't think it's necessary. But just like me, right, the more I speak, the more my character is revealed, right? When a person is in, I don't know, quote unquote, comfort zone, right? Yeah, apparently the Israelis want to pick and choose who is convenient to them, right? Pretending as if they are not part of the conflict, right? This is not about what you like. This is rather about what is going to bring results. And yeah, we're going to see how this whole thing unfolds. Okay, these talks happened, and some things were agreed, but a few things remain, right, from what they say. Yeah, just for shits and giggles, right? Because they can. They're sophisticated. Just for the record, the seventh. Yeah, you leave because of the US. I don't know if the statistics support that, but hey, he said what he had to say. Yeah, are these shepherds, brothers and sisters? Are these shepherds? Hmm? Hmm? Endure. That was. I thought you were the shepherds, right? And does the shepherd send the sheep to fight the wolves? I don't know about this one here. Right? He has the whole costume thing down pat, but when it comes to matters of faith and responsibility, I doubt it. Why? Because he himself personally isn't really out here making any forms of waves in the face of these wolves. Hmm? Thank you, Turkey. And while we are on this, I don't know what type of influence or pull does the Saudi, or the Turkish for that matter, have pertaining to the whole Sudan situation? Of course, there's going to be a tiny update here. Yeah, I still need yours help to resolve that whole situation, right? Don't let them come up with ideas. It's ridiculous, and people are paying the price because of the pride of two people. From my perspective, that's what it is. Right, so yeah, do what you can, and of course, as usual, the usual suspects are always gonna interfere. So yeah. Why do they feel comfortable doing this on TV? Because a large percent of the population is like this, right? Because there is no retribution. You understand? So again, we go back to that old saying, right? That is in the scriptures, right? The heart of the leader is the heart of the people. So do not be shocked, nor surprised. You might assume, but it is literally, from what I have seen, a majority is like a culture. This interference and imposing, it's literally like a culture to some Europeans, a large majority of the Europeans, right? Again, the difference is we can have opinions, right? We as Africans, for instance, we can have opinions about any other country on this world, about how undesirable or desirable they are, right? But still, we do not, I don't know, when we find it undesirable, we do not, I don't know, want to impose our will or anything like that, right? And it's not about, I don't know, we do not have the power to do so. But it comes from understanding, really, right? That the whole world is not Tanzania, the whole world is not Russia, the whole world is not China, and it can never be China. The Chinese are Chinese. There are ways that they behave and interact with each other which is unique to them. So taking that model and applying it somewhere else is futile in any aspect that you might choose, right? Even medical practices, right? Because of the character of the people, the system is set up in a particular way. So what I'm saying is, this all comes from people not really self-examining, right? Self-examining, right? That self-examination factor is like non-existence at this point, right? Because if one would self-examine, they would see themselves to be naked, ideologically speaking. But until then, more trouble. So the Arab League is up in there, right? Get your goals straight. First, establish the borders, then a state, then an economy. Get the ball rolling. If there isn't any borders, right? This supposed yellow line keeps conveniently shifting. It's not gonna work out. Hell, let the Israelis build a Berlin Wall type of situation for themselves. If that's what they want to, I don't know, quote unquote, feel safe. They have them, in fact. Right? It's like a bad marriage. Now we have to the marriage has turned violent. Now we have to separate the partners. So the line needs to be drawn so as a violation can be established. Otherwise, this is pointless. $1 billion or nothing, right? Of course, the PSYOP and the threat against Iran is still there. 20,000 slaughter. And they are insinuating that the protests are still continuing. Now, this is a thing that I talked about, right? I don't know, as part of some international trade agreement situation, countries deposit their gold in Europe, right, in order to, I don't know, facilitate trade. The best way to deal with this, yeah, we need to start taking our, especially gold, back, right? I know Tanzania has gold in vaults in the UK or something. Take a quarter of that and bring it back. Because why? They have shown that they could just take your stuff and just divide it among themselves aggressively while they're at it. That's why. Do you need any more reason? And they did that to a nuclear power. Oh, now you might say, oh, easy, they didn't go through with it. They had meetings about it. Right? But there were individuals to stop them from doing it. Right? There are officials, right? Security officials on camera being asked, right? And being challenged about their obvious biases. But again, they are robots. They have specific instructions. If individuals side with these individuals, they need to be captured and questioned, even persecuted. Okay? Quite informative. Quite informative. Right? To give a better view or a better understanding of the whole ordeal, right, on how to apprehend it. Right? That, of course, he downplays what they do, right? As, I don't know what the correct word would be, analysts, right? That's the most crucial part of any plan, right? You might have the data, but if you don't have a person to make sense of that data, to make it not raw again, but rather useful, That's like 50% of the thing, you know. And again, this question of integration, I think there is a slight oversimplification. I think they build their systems from the ground up. They didn't just, I don't know, have this piece of software and then it plugs in into other systems and it works flawlessly in exchanging of data and what. No, I think it's much darker than that. And these people are connected and their companies are literally funded by these alphabet letters, the alphabet boys, right? Not the LGBTQ, right? But the three-letter agencies, they call them. They are sponsored from the ground up. Well, look at that, and this turn of events. This is pointless, right? Because it's gonna be stationary. It's not gonna be engaging anybody on anything. So how then are you gonna fool a loitering munition with a camera on it? Direct link. You can fool maybe an autonomous system, but again, it can be improved. But what is the point of this? Last time it was the Russians doing it, now it's you. Maybe it was you all the time, huh? Well, about this whole ordeal, we have seen this over and over, but this belief is what's shocking to me, right? His brand, Vivet, hella weird. That's all I'm gonna say. Hella weird. Hella weird. Well, I haven't heard much about this. Again, trying to uproot the Chinese from over there. The Taliban, you need to, like, I don't know. They are traitors among you. Because they did this not for the sake of your nation. They did this to scare the Chinese away. It's not the first time I personally have covered this incident. The last time was in the mountains and it was a construction site, and if I'm not mistaken there was a kidnapping and they were shot, something like that, and then it was a whole scandal, and it was about the same region if I'm not mistaken. Might be last year, no, not the last year, 2023 or 24, somewhere there. The Europeans are now retaliating, it seems. Well, this is First Maccabees, right? And they highlighted this. Basically is recounting the historical events of what happened to our capital, and what happened after that, right? So these individuals, I must cycle back to this. Well, I haven't seen any complaints or anybody talk about this, right? That the supposed technocratic committee is not even supposed to enter Gaza, the place where they are supposed to be technocrating. Why? I bet they will tell you it's a war zone. And if you ask for about the ceasefire, then I don't know what are they gonna say. Allegedly, Trump is talking to the Israelis, and this is what he's saying, right? Be ready. A long and painful war with Iran may break out, and it could be painful for Israel as well. By the end of the week, we will complete all preparations in preparation for issuing the order to open fire. This is what was leaked. We are totally in line on Syria, whatever that means. We can do great things on Iran. I don't see any positivity over there. I do not understand what you're doing on Greenland, right? He took the long way to get to the point. Let's just try to build a great thing. I can set up a G7 meeting after Davos. Danish, Syrian, Russians, Ukrainians. Let us have dinner together before you go back, Emmanuel. Yeah. He said he's leaving others to judge. Now the conversation they're having, right? It's funny. Existing international law and the role of the UN. Strong statements. Strong statements. This is what is being said. For me, it is very difficult to imagine how we and Russia would be together on a board. And this isn't about the board of peace. It is just that Russia is all about a board of war, and Belarus as well. Guess whose opinions are these? Who talk like this? Like, is you a grown man? Zelensky said he is for now remaining in Kiev as he wants to check how tasks to strengthen heating and energy sector in several of our regions have been carried out. Right? Yeah. Again, please do not give yourself the excuse to strike any nuclear facility in Russia. Do not. Because we are back at this again, just like last year. So, I.serve, a coinage, Barbados penny, year J788, right? I think we done had this conversation that as many historians who share a view appertaining to this whole ordeal, the conclusion seemed to be that they were using I and J to denote, basically, it's like the Gregorian calendar, counting from when the Messiah was born, the year, right? This is why they used either the J or the I. But what has ensued is that some individuals have changed the J and the I's in buildings, in books, right? I have shown you concrete examples here. I hope it's in this channel and not the deleted one, but I hope it's in this channel. made a lot of videos, right, from my perspective. Right? And what they have done is they have changed that J and I or I to a 1, right? To a 1. And basically that has resulted in the addition of 1,000 years to our current timeline. Do you understand? But again, that's not the point why I have this coin, right? That's a tangent. But we have a Negro over there. Of course, I serve, right? I'm just giving you a clue, right? Go and look up Barbados, and from this fake or rather confusing timeline, in the year 1788, what was happening in Barbados, who was ruling in Barbados. Again, they have a J792, right? 1972, or the year 792. What do we have here? Right? A god riding on a seahorse using a trident. Quite something. But on the front, still the same, right? The years are different, right? 1788, 1792. Consistency, right? Who are these individuals and why the history has been hidden? All this Etruscan coin, Hannibal Barca. Is it a case of dementia or something? Because I believe he gave this threat, right? He gave this threat. Remember those good old days when there were people apparently shooting at him, right? He gave such a threat. Why? Again, because he knows he's gonna do something stupid and he is scared for the retaliation. So why? Just like the priest, he tells his soldiers, stand in front over there, protect me. Yeah, a lot of is it a foreign policy shift that we are seeing? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, as if the dating app crashing during their meetings wasn't suspicious enough. Or let me tell you this. Do you know what is behind a very funny man and funny things? So if these people keep insisting on I don't know, projecting this masculine energy over and over, flaunting it, actually they are overcompensating for something. They are lacking. So in order to cover up said adequacy, they overcompensate. Right? So again, do not be surprised. Nice. Again, resolutions were reached, except one. So, going back to the Sudani thing, it's just a temporary recovery, right? But the battle is still on, right? So, yeah, I think I've said what I had to say about this whole deal here. I don't know about what the UAE is involved with or what they can do, but they are welcome. They are welcome. I have no. And this needs to be fixed, or rather settled, for stability to return to that whole region. While one region is destabilizing, and of course, they are continuing, right? They sent over there Trump's, yeah. The kingpin, right? No, rather the queen pin, is it? Yeah, the guy was spot on, apparently. So this says a lot about the current state of the world, right?
No one ever wants to talk about child abuse or child trafficking in the UK Parliament. We don't even have a crime in the UK of satanic child abuse because it doesn't happen. It's just
Very specific. Very specific.
child abuse. There's no satanic. That can't be thought. Kind of the same in the Netherlands. They erase the subject. Yeah, well, you look at the children that disappear and the reluctance of the state. I mean, we live in a surveillance state. We're all surveilled, but still, these children can just disappear. Well, they only can disappear because the state allows them to disappear.
Get Palantir on it.
And that's across the whole world. And I was given evidence that there was industrial child trafficking from the Ukraine via Moldova to the UK for sexual abuse and organ harvesting.
Just catches people just shout on sight.
The information had come from two Ukrainian Secret Service agents who were collecting children during the conflict in the Donbass, and they were handing them over to UK Secret.
Are these the so-called missing children? The Ukrainians keep talking to the Russians that they stole them.
Services. How big is this? I think we can accept there's more money in child trafficking, sex trafficking of children, than there is in drugs or weapons. They trade the children. They only sell the drugs once. They sell the children many, many times. And then when they're finished with them, they organ harvest them. That's why you never find the victims in the end. And there's huge amounts of money. This is where your taxes go to. And it's state sponsored. And that's why you will not stop it at the moment, because the state will never investigate the state. How do you know that it's real what you're saying? How do we find? Well, because real proof. Because the two originators of the information who didn't know each other, were both Ukrainian Secret Service agents who were appalled at what they were being asked to do, which was collect the children up for trafficking. One was killed in a cafe, a bomb was put under his table, and the second one had a bomb put under his car and survived. And he named the names, and it's people very close to Zelensky and his regime that are, I mean, they're making the money. They love a war because it allows children to disappear and no one asks any questions.
So you have Ukrainian whistleblowers.
One of them was killed, and the other one was injured badly. Vasily goes to his car and the car explodes. It was from a car park camera. You can see it. That's what happened. So, I mean, that's what happened to the whistleblowers. Is it satanic? I believe it is, and I think the people who are running this and many other things they're perpetrating against the people of the world, I think they're Luciferians.
The point is, the motive is as important as the crime, right? If you want to put a stop to it permanently. So if the world governments are looking away, something needs to change. Something needs to change, and these conversations need to be had no matter how tough they are. And trust me, I have heard some witnesses and testimonies, right, from people who have dedicated their lives to the rescue of children under this specific circumstance. In the US, right, I know even one was a retired operator, right, and he was horrified and traumatized about what he was unfolding under the what is happening in America over there.
I think it's some sort of child sacrifice cult. I've looked them in the eyes, and they are soulless people. And why do they do it? But you can look. I mean, you see a young child. They're the nearest thing to God we've got on this planet. You know, they're so innocent. They're in God's image, and the younger they are, the more innocent they are. And it's the biggest affront to God that these people can do, and that's why they do it. That's what I honestly believe is the biggest harming children is the biggest affront to God. For the children.
And what was his answer to that? You rather have a stone or a grinding stone tied to your neck and drowned? Yeah, that's the treatment we're gonna give you. So I've not forgotten about this, right? So wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maphta over against Jerusalem. From Maphta was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. They fasted that day and put on sackcloth, right, and cast ashes upon their heads, and rent their clothes, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had thought to paint a likeness of their images. All right? So hold on.
I've never had anybody of Scottish descent admit this, but I went down a rabbit hole about Scotland and Ireland, and it was crazy. The Stuart family. The Stuart family is the ones that founded Scotland, right? So in those times when people gave themselves surnames or last names, they was using a last name or something that described themselves or described what they do or whatever. Stuart meant black or meant dark. That's what Stuart meant, right? So when I did research, studying or whatever, the Stuarts, I'm coming into conflicting information. Some of their paintings they had were white, and some of their paintings they had were black. So I'm like, hold on, what the fuck going on? Henry Lord Darnley, for one. At the time, I was studying the origins of religions in Europe, and I had to study King James. So come to find out, King James is Stuart. So I'm like, oh shit, don't tell me motherfucking King James black. So I started digging up more, right? I'm going into I'm in the UK government archive files looking at shit, right? And at the time they didn't use the word black. It was other terms. Moor, maroon, Maury, Ameri, Tamari, Swarthy. They was using those terms. So when they was describing King James in archive literature, they always said he was swarthy. And swarthy means dark, black. So now I'm like all in it. I'm like, okay, let me look up King James' parents. See, King James, he changed his name when he became king. They changed their name, became king. That's why his name was King James, the first of his kind. But his real name was Jacob Stewart. Jacob with an I. I-A-C-O-B. That was his name. Jacob Stewart. But back then they pronounced I's like J, so it sounded like Jacob.
You see that? It's coming back. Maybe they did it with a computer, you know. You have a whole document digitized, right? And the texts are editable, and then you just enter a command. Change the I's and J's to a 1, you know. Just like the text above there, right? Back from the 1400s. Maybe it's just the 400s. The 1 does not exist. It's part of the confusion.
Now, I looked up his parents, and Henry Lord Darnley, that was his father. Henry Lord Darnley, that was his father. I'm looking him up. They saying he's swarthy with curly hair, and all the ladies loved him. And he had majestic eyes, and I'm looking up pictures of him. Black as fuck. Black as fuck. So now I'm like looking up his motherfucking kids. So King James had a son named Charles, right? Guess what his nickname was? The Black Boy. That was his nickname, the Black Boy. So I'm a little excited right now, so forgive me. But you definitely tell the truth, because when the Renaissance era came in, it came in right when King James was murdered, right? And when the Renaissance era was nothing but a whitewashing era. They was erasing the previous art, they was erasing the previous literature, burning books, they was putting their names on certain paint.
It was a coordinated effort, brothers and sisters. Let me just tell you that. It was a horrific, right, from what I can gather, from all that I know, it was an horrific and fearful time for the melanated man and woman. It was terrible, right? Because we cannot hide from the nations, okay? We cannot hide from the nations. So imagine, from far Asia as you can go, and far as the Americas you can go, we were pursued, persecuted, sold, displaced. It was mayhem. And that is what is being hidden from the melanated people of the continent, right? Because don't get me wrong, right? I use this name Moorish. These are what they used to call them, but they knew where they came from. Look at how the Moorish people were. That is literally West Africa, right? Literally West Africa. So yeah, that is how we lost it all. Everywhere, simultaneously.
This is why Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, all of those artists became famous. Shakespeare, all of those artists became famous or whatever, because this was the Renaissance era when they was whitewashing everything. I'm glad you said something.
Right, so if we continue to read here, after, of course, we have noted their first crime, okay, changing of history, right, subverting history. It also continues. They brought also the priest's garment and the first fruits and tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice towards heaven, saying, What shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned. Right? No stone left on top of stone. Yeah. And thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. Right? No king remain. right? You can track it down, right? Everywhere. It was a coordinated assault by Esau. Mm? And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us, right? Just like I showed you last time, right? From being a nation. What thing they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them? Hmm? The multitude. Hmm?
And you remember at one time, Morocco actually applied to be a member of the European Union, and they withdrew from the African Union, or the OAU and African Union. Then they came back again. And when they came back, it was simply because of Sahrawi. They wanted the position of the African Union on Sahrawi to be maintained, and they like it that way. So these words, these individuals who say what they say, they represent the dominant feeling in that part of the world. And we must never be deluded. If they don't want to be Africans, let them not be Africans. If they think they are simply in the continent called Africa, but they want to belong elsewhere, they must be told in no uncertain terms. And we never say this as often as we should. The Arabs were responsible for slavery in this part of the world. And in fact, the Arab slavery started earlier and continued for a longer time. And they took more Africans into their part of the world. And even as we speak now, we know what is happening in Libya. We know what is happening to African migrants when they get to Tunisia. We know what is happening to African migrants when they get to Algeria and when they get to Morocco. And the African Union should not equivocate on this matter. They should speak clearly and firmly so that we know who we are dealing with. Wondered how a man can appear in front of a nation without performing one single miracle, preaches one boring short sermon, and everyone is converted. Listen, these are the kind of things that, except you have the backstory, you think is a lie. It doesn't add up. And you're right, because there's a very important detail you are missing. Nineveh was part of the region of Assyria, and the people of Assyria worshipped many gods. One of them was called Oannes. Do you want to know what Oannes looks like? He's a river god, and the emblem of Oannes is a man emerging out of a fish. So imagine these pagans fishing, and then to the shore comes a whale, and a man comes out of it preaching. The king said everybody must fast, because we thought that our God was the real God. But we've seen a man come out of a fish preaching to us about the true God. Whoever he's talking about must be the real God.
Why did I show that? Just to create a connection. Matthew 12:13, but he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall be no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And when the people were gathered thick together and began to say, this is an evil generation, they seek a sign, and there shall no sign be given, but the son of Jonah the prophet. What does that mean? Discuss.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false. That the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient. That trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. Economic integration as weapons. Tariffs of extreme global integration.
What did you?
But more recently.
What? What? You are doing so well until here.
Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. As leverage. Financial infrastructure as coercion. Supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Anywho, they have some self-reflection to do, especially on looking the other way part, right? I don't know. Again, that whole speech had of course, the things that I pointed out. It is what it is. But again, it's half truth, right? The great powers have not started recently to use these systems as a means to, okay? This is how they do it, right? They invite you with kindness, they give you the benefits. Please join our system of payment. It is effective. It is, rich in participants, and it's safe and it's stable. But when you get into it, yeah, it's like a cult. And you have to fight your way out. So anyway, let me put a pin on it right there. And I'm going to see you, or rather hear from me when you're going to hear from me. Prince Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.